What is going on, everyone? This is Miles Dompier, and welcome to the 94th episode of Xbox Chaturdays. Today, I am stoked to be joined once again by my good pal and the legendary co-host of Gamertag Radio and Kind of Funny Xcast, Parris Lilly. Parris, how are you doing on this fine Saturday, my dude?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me. Look, I know I joke on Twitter and I'll troll in chats and I'll like, oh, Miles. No, but I'm always happy to be on with you. And I'm especially happy because we finally got to meet back in December at the Game Awards. So it was great to finally see you in person.
Yeah, that was awesome. So I talked about this previously, but you know, for me and my kind of journey in the games industry space, most of it's been during COVID, like the peak of pandemic.
Yeah,
so I haven't had opportunities to go to a lot of events. So I was stoked to go to the Game Awards and meet Parris. Like that was one of the main things. I was like, hell yeah, all these people I've been talking to for years and being on podcast with and joking around with on Twitter, I get to meet them in person. So I got to see you and we got a hug and it was awesome. So stoked about that. Stoked we got to have that opportunity. And, it was just it was a great moment. And so stoked to have you. I know we joke around on Twitter. I see you joking in the chat. Why am I here? Who agreed to this? But, you agreed to this because you and I, we have some great conversations. And I always love having you on. And we have a lot to talk about. It's been a week, dude. It's been a week. It's been a month. 2023 has been a roller coaster of emotions. So we're going to be talking about some highs. We're going to be talking about some lows. We're going to be talking about Hi-Fi Rush landing as a massive hit for Xbox. Then we're going to be talking about waves and waves of cancellations for games as a service titles. We're going to be talking about an update for the Coalition. We're going to be talking about the future of 343 Industries, a shocking update to the Xbox 360 marketplace, and so much more. But before we get into all of that, Parris, for the folks who maybe don't know, give us a quick breakdown of who you are and where people can find you.
I am Parris Lilly. I've been a podcaster / content creator. I don't even know what to call it anymore, but I've been doing this since 2006. I originally got inspired by Danny Pena over at Gamertag Radio, all the way back in 05. And I always tell the story, but I'll never forget seeing him. Another good friend of mine, Chris Palladino, they're podcasters at the time, gaming podcasts that I would listen to. And I'm watching a video and I see that they were at Microsoft, at Xbox, at a Lord of the Rings event.
Yes.
And I go, oh my God. I go, wait, you get to go to Microsoft? You get to go to Xbox? I want to do this too. So I reached out to Danny. I reached out to Chris. I'll never forget because it was a Saturday morning just like this. And, they helped me a lot. They gave me kind of the early ropes of here's the equipment you need. Here's the software you need, all the things, to get into podcasting, started my own podcast that I did until 2011. And then I retired because, my partner at the time, he took a job with EA and, it just wasn't fun anymore. So I was like, hey, I've done it all. I've
had my run, throwing in the towel.
So I retired, but Danny was always a good friend. He was always a great mentor throughout all of that. We'd meet up at E3s, kind of collaborate, help each other out. So even though I retired, I came back in 2013 with BioShock Infinite because Danny and Pete and Mandy had asked me to come on Gamertag Radio to talk about BioShock Infinite because I love the game, and it was such great reception. Next thing you know, they're asking me to come on, like, hey, do you want to be on the show full time? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I can commit to that. I've been there ever since, right? And and here we are. So, I do Gamertag Radio. Then in 2020, I started out with Kind of Funny. Or was that 2021? I can't keep up with this whole pandemic thing. I don't know years anymore. I think it was 2020.
I think so.
Yeah, but I started doing stuff with Kind of Funny, and I wound up replacing Alana Pierce as full-time co-host on Xcast. Been there ever since. Obviously, I'll do other things with Kind of Funny as well, but it's been great. Had a lot of fun. It's been an amazing few years, and I know you and I were talking briefly about how so much of this has happened during the pandemic. I feel like a lot of the big opportunities I've had was because of the pandemic, because we're all stuck at home. Shout out to Ryan McCaffrey. I was actually just on IGN Unlocked this week. He had me come on IG Unlocked last minute. This was in 2020, and it was just him and I. And we had a fantastic conversation during that time that wound up leading to IGN wanting me to do more things with them. I wound up, doing a few different events with them. Like it was like the Xbox Showcase in 2020. I wound up co-hosting on that. I remember Night City Wire doing that. Gamescom, like I've done different things with them. And then obviously like kind of funny. And obviously, as a lot of people know at this point, I got the opportunity in 2021 to host that Xbox Showcase. And wound up doing Gamescom that same year for Xbox. And even last year had a fun thing with Flight Simulator where we went out to Washington, D.C. and went to the National Air and Space Museum and filmed a bunch of stuff there. Got to fly a helicopter, which was just the craziest thing ever over downtown Baltimore. But yeah, it's been a wild ride, man. It's been a lot of fun. But I love this. Obviously, anyone that follows me on social media knows I'm very opinionated about the gaming industry, but I am because I love it. I have a passion for it, and just see what's going to happen next.
Yeah, I mean, I got to say, it's been awesome seeing your face pop up more and more places. Obviously, the Xbox Showcase is where the infamous Parris Danger Zone Lilly codename came from. So it's been great. It's been awesome. Stoked to have you on this show. Stoked that you're part of Kind of Funny. I think you're a great voice in this community. I've talked about this the first time you were on the show, but one thing I appreciate you is how you approach these conversations and how you inject your opinions into the discourse, if you will, in a way that's thoughtful and meaningful and isn't designed to inherently kind of stoke the flames and get everyone, arguing about, what this is. And that's what a lot of these conversations can be. And ironically, our first little topic is going to be that. But that aside, I do appreciate you, man.
No, I appreciate you too. Again, I always love coming on. I think we always have great conversations, and looking forward to diving in.
Yeah, we got a lot. So some quick housekeeping before we get into the meat of it. Memberships are now active on the channel. So stoked about that. So that's been a recent development if you've been following this channel, is that Xbox Chaturdays is now over here. It's hosted on my own thing. Been doing this for a couple months now. Stoked about that. Memberships are live. You get a burger badge. I know if you've watched Xbox 2, the last couple Xbox 2, Rand has been throwing around the Miles Dumper slander. There was a typo in a super chat where somebody spelled my last name as Dumper, and Rand has just been having a heyday. He's just been having a grand old time with Miles Dumper this, Miles Dumper that. So what I did is I took it. I said, no, it's Miles Dump Truck. You can call me Miles Dump Truck, but that's it. So there's a dump truck emoji in here as well. So we also have a Discord. If you haven't joined that, there's a link in the description for the Xbox Chaturdays Discord if you want to come hang out. And let's get into it. Let's start with something fun. Let's start with something a little spicy. So our pal Jez Corden, he took to Twitter yesterday, and he posed a simple yet controversial question that I want to pose to you, and I want to pose to everyone watching. And that is, what's your Xbox opinion that will make other Xbox fans mad at you? So Parris, hit me with your spicy Xbox-centric opinion.
So I saw that tweet and I almost replied. And I go, you know what? I'm staying out of this one. I don't want to see the discourse on what I'm about to say, but I feel very strongly about this. And I have ever since it's been rumored. We do not need a Gears of War collection. No. What? Absolutely not. There's 0 point to repackaging up Gears 1, 2, 3, and I guess you could even do Judgment into some collection and put it back out there again. I have on and off been playing the original Gears of War through backwards compatibility on the Xbox Series X. It's fine. It's fine for what it is. And I realize I'm saying this right as we just had a Dead Space remake come out, which is phenomenal. It's great. I'm not completely against remakes. Like, I think Ubisoft doing that remake of Splinter Cell, while I would like a new adventure of Sam Fisher, it has been a very long time since we have since the original Splinter Cell come out. So to do a remake of it, okay, that's fine. Obviously, we just had The Last of Us remake on the PlayStation 5. Now, while I may not agree with the price of it in such a short period of time, and this basically being the third iteration we've had that game in less than 10 years, I mean, it is phenomenal for what they did. But when I look at Gears of War, and like I said, the fact that you have backwards compatibility available to you, there is actually already a remaster remake of the original Gears that you can play as well. Gears 2 and 3 still hold up very well from the 360 era if you go play them right now. I don't see a need. If anything, you know, the coalition is taking an extended break with the Gears franchise. Maybe you want to keep it in the public eye. I get it, but I don't need it. I personally am not clamoring for, yes, give me the 4 games that I already have access to in a collection so that I can play them again with maybe some, you know, a few visual upgrades here and there. But for the most part, it's still the same game that I played back in 2006. No, I think I'm good.
Yeah, at least the Gears games have, you know, resolution boost and FPS boost, and you can go back and you can play most of those games at 60 FPS, which I think is the big thing. Like with Halo, that wasn't an option, so that made a lot more sense. I love Gears. Gears is one of my all-time favorite franchises. So if they did a Gears collection, I would buy it day one. Would I go through and realistically play through all the Gears again? Probably once, yeah, and then I'd probably move on. But that being said, I love what they did with Ultimate Edition. And if that was the approach, if they did that with 2 and then 3, I'd be all for it. You know, my opinion that will make Xbox fans mad relates to Gears as well. My opinion is that Gears of War is a better franchise than Halo.
No, that's crazy. That's crazy talk.
And we're gonna be, you know, talking all about Halo. But in my eyes, Gears of War has consistently been better than Halo. I think, you know, Gears 1 was phenomenal. Gears 2 elevated every element of Gears of War 1 in every possible way. Same thing with Gears 3. And it was just this beautiful trilogy, this tight, amazing trilogy. Gears of War 3, better than Halo 3. I'm sorry. Those are the facts.
Wait. Back that up. Say that again.
Gears of War 3 is better than Halo 3.
We're done. I don't even want to be on the show anymore.
You know,
we can literally end the show. It was great, Miles. So glad I got to meet you in December. But I'm done. I'm blocking you on Twitter. We're out of here.
Blocked. And I know, like I said, the question was, what's your Xbox opinion that will make other Xbox fans mad at you? That's the one. That's the one right there.
Yeah, because you made me mad. I'm mad at you now.
I've succeeded.
Yes. Well, if you don't mind, I actually want to dive into that because I find that surprising. So I want to, and I know we were going to have a Halo discussion already, but I think I want to bring this portion into this part. So with all the struggles that we've seen with Halo over the past decade or so, I can understand the recency bias of thinking that Gears overall is a better franchise than Halo. But I will disagree in this sense. While I am a firm believer that Halo peaked at Halo 3 as a complete package, as far as campaign and multiplayer goes, I think everything since has one part of it's been good, but the other part, not so much since Reach, right? All the way up to here we are now with Infinite. But when I think about what Combat Evolved, what Halo 2 and what Halo 3 were as a trilogy, it is the best three set of games, you know, story from start to finish in the 20-year history of Xbox, in my personal opinion. From a story standpoint, not to mention what the multiplayer meant, not only for console gaming, but for online game. I'm screwing this up. Not what it meant, you know, for online gaming, but for console online gaming. Xbox Live, what Halo 2, what Max Hoberman and that team at Bungie at that time did for online gaming, for Xbox Live was transformative.
Yeah.
The hooks of what happened then are still relevant to this very day, right? So to say, like I said, when you said that, you said Gears 3 is better than Halo 3. Yeah. I want to be clear on that.
Yes.
I think you're smoking dope. I really do think you're smoking dope. I don't know what good stuff they got up in the Northwest, but man, there's no way.
Okay,
go ahead, please.
Hear me out. First, let me just preface this whole conversation by saying I love Halo. I've publicly said that Halo Combat Evolved is one of the most important games of all time. One of the most important releases in the history of console gaming. Halo was transformative. It did something for shooters that had never been done before, and it completely changed the landscape. So I will say that Halo Combat Evolved is better than Gears of War 1. I will give you that any day of the week. From there, though, from Gears 2 to Gears 3, I will say that Gears 2 is better than Halo 2 and that Gears 3 is better than Halo 3. From a storytelling perspective, from a cinematic perspective, I just really appreciate what the Gears franchise did. I know it gets memed for being the machismo, big, bulky, buff dudes, but it found a way to have that action, have that heart, and combine elements of, horror and human relationships in a way that was really interesting. The story of Gears 3, when you have, Dom, just the Crush defeated, and starting at Gears 3 and how that whole arc plays out, and it's just beautiful. The Maria in Gears of War 2, that moment when Dom discovers this person he's been searching for all this time, and you have all this investment in that moment. Like, Gears has these moments that stick with you forever in the same way that Halo does, obviously in a lot of ways. But when I look back at Halo, a lot of those moments that stick with me forever are more on the gameplay side of things, which is still very important. For me, I'm typically a gameplay over story fan, but I think the narrative beats of Gears 2 and Gears 3 in particular they just hit a bit harder, in my opinion, than Halo 2 and Halo 3. Okay? That's where I'm at.
And I will respect your opinion, but I will also throw this out and say, don't make a girl a promise if you can't keep it. You found me. The whole opening monologue from Cortana in Halo 3.
Yeah, it does.
And talking about why she picked Master Chief. He goes through hell and back, finally reunites with Cortana. You're really going to tell me that the Dom storyline in Gears 3 is more powerful than that storytelling that you were able to tell over a series of games? The relationship between John 117 and Cortana is iconic. It is part of the reason why Halo 5 was such a failure from a storytelling standpoint, is you got away from the core of what made Halo work, which is obviously they tried to bring that back. And again, slight spoilers here for Infinite. They tried to bring that back for Infinite, but they told a lot of that story off camera, which was, again, kind of a disappointment in that way. I'm sorry. That is just something that you and I will just agree to disagree on, that the prime Halo story from Combat Evolved to 3 is fantastic video game storytelling. It really is. Even with the side character, Miranda Keyes, Captain Keyes, Sergeant Johnson, the story with the Arbiter. I mean, there's so many other things in that Halo universe that by the time you roll credits on 3, I care. I legitimately cared about Spartan 117 and Cortana's relationship at the end. It mattered to me. It mattered to me that he had to go rescue her, that he had to keep his promise, that she was not going to get left behind. And just the symbiotic relationship that they had together. I'm sorry, way more powerful than Dom. It just is. It literally just is. I don't know how else to say it. So we can agree to disagree, but yes. You are spot on. That is I triple double dog dare you to tweet that out right now, because that's a comment.
Did. That was
you did. Oh,
well,
I gotta go find it. I gotta look at the comments.
I'll tweet after the show that Gears of War 3 is better than Halo 3. That alone.
Yeah. I'll tweet not that. To mention, and we're not even touching the multiplayer. I'm just talking from a story standpoint. Look, Gears multiplayer is fun in the moment, but I have not invested the hundreds of hours into Gears multiplayer that I have into Halo multiplayer over the years. And I think, again, that's a big difference. Why do you think people are so upset at Halo Infinite right now? Is because they want more content to play Halo multiplayer, and they're not getting it. Whereas I don't hear people saying about Gears. I don't. I just say, I don't know. No.
Obviously, I've struck a chord. Obviously, I've my whole, I wanted to start the show riling Parris up, riling everyone up, and I did it. I succeeded in that regard. I will just say, I didn't say a single negative thing about Halo. I love Halo 1 through 3. I do. It is. I agree with you. Every point that you made about the storytelling and how it hits and all of that. But that being said, I've just, as I got a little bit, older, I gravitated towards Gears more than I gravitated towards Halo. And that's not a knock on Halo. I'm just one of those fiends who likes the Gears of War multiplayer. I understand there's a huge learning curve, but when it comes to moment-to-moment gameplay, Gears, baby, hip-fire Nashers and wall bouncing all damn day, every single day. There's nothing like it. Halo obviously came out, reinvented first-person shooters. Its multiplayer made its mark on the gaming landscape forever. But Gears, baby, still to this day, nothing plays like Gears. For better or worse, whether people like it or not, nothing is like Gears of War, and that's why, when it comes to multiplayer, I've put thousands of hours into Gears. Thousands.
Okay. Now, this is your show, so I'm not trying to take over your show. And mess up the order of the topics here, but I have to ask you a question, and we can move on from there.
Hear it.
Which is the more important IP to Xbox, Halo or Gears?
I'm conflicted. I think overall Halo is the more important IP. From just the history, the legacy, the brand association, Halo is the more important IP. That being said, I guarantee you that Gears of War movie and the Gears of War multimedia stuff is going to hit in a way that Halo didn't. And we can talk about what they missed or what they fumbled on.
I got comments on that, yeah.
Because they clearly fumbled the multimedia portion of Halo in a huge way. That being said, I don't think they're going to make the same mistakes, and I think Gears as a universe is way easier to adapt into other multimedia than Halo. Because there's a lot of Halo books, there's a lot of lore, but because of the heavy sci-fi, the alien portion of it, it's more of an investment, I think, whereas Gears of War, you can tell a streamlined, straightforward story that anyone who has no idea about the Gears universe can understand and appreciate in a relatively short period of time. So, depending on how Gears of War lands, the live action and the animated short, I'm curious to see if that changes the public perception of the Gears of War franchise. Because right now, Halo is still way bigger than Gears. Just way bigger. Has way more brand recognition. But, depending on how they adapt the future of Gears of War, I think they could pivot a little bit and, split that a little bit more evenly. But that's just me. That's just me.
Okay. I was just curious what your reasoning is, but yeah, all right.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to have a little fun. Obviously, I see people in the chat do not agree with me. Some people do. I do see some legends who are not afraid to speak the truth in the chat. So stay strong, Gears brethren. There are dozens of us out there. But yes, that was my spicy Xbox opinion that I knew would make people mad, because when you think Halo, you think Xbox. They're just synonymous at this point. So to say that Gears of War, which again is synonymous with Xbox, but not nearly in the same caliber, I know that. I'm not kidding myself. I'm not going to tell you that Gears of War is bigger than Halo, because it's not. But I like it more. Okay, is that so wrong?
No, there's nothing wrong with that, and I think that's one thing of that we obviously see a lot of discourse in social media with this. Like what you like, doesn't matter. Again, like a topic I've purposely stayed away from because I just really don't want to have an opinion either way on it. Like with Forspoken, as an example, right?
Oh, yeah.
You've seen the low scores on that. If there's people out there that want to enjoy that game, let them enjoy it. Who cares? Who cares what the score is? Like, again, I've been playing Destiny since the alpha in 2014. I jokingly say it is the greatest 6.5 game of all time. Because, hey, it scored low, but it's a game that I love, and no one can tell me what I want to enjoy. So to your point with Gears, if you think Gears is better, if that's how you feel about Gears, that's your opinion, and it's valid because it's your opinion. Nobody can tell you differently. I can sit here and give you all reasonable facts, but at the end of the day, that's
okay. Reasonable facts now. Okay,
yeah.
I see.
But that doesn't mean it's going to change your mind, because that's how you feel about the game. And I think if we can get to that place overall in the industry, just let people like what they like.
Yeah.
Period, point blank. Fair. Like, yeah,
everything, as you touched on with Forspoken, that was a prime example of all or nothing. It has to be the best or it's the worst. And that's what those conversations were. Forspoken wasn't a 10 out of 10 certified banger, so therefore it was trash. It's the worst game you've ever seen ever in your life. And that's just what a lot of it becomes. And, it's fun. It's obviously we were just, riling people up. And it can be fun to rile people up with a silly take. But sometimes it gets a little out of control. And it's just...
Yeah, no, it really does. And see, you get me on, I get ranting about this stuff because I try to normally, like, I don't wade in the mud of social media. I see a lot of it. I don't respond to it. I just roll my eyes and keep going. But a big problem, again, let's just stick on the Forspoken thing as an example. Matter of fact, a thing I told you I didn't want to talk about, I'm going to bring up too, just as a part of this. As a gaming community, we've drawn these lines of, well, you got to be an Xbox guy or you got to be a PlayStation guy. And if you see one not doing so well, it's let's just pile onto that. The other side wants to pile onto that. And they create this, honestly, just this childish discourse over review scores and visual fidelity of something, or maybe there's story dialogue that isn't necessarily the best. And you just focus in on that nonsense. And you just beat it over the head constantly over and over again. And it's just a complete waste of time. It really is. That's why I don't participate it at all. That's why if you look, I've not said one peep about Forspoken online either way, because it doesn't matter. And that's why I always say when it comes to review scores and all of that, it's just an opinion. It's just one person's opinion. That's it. You don't have to listen to it if you don't want to. You can use opinions as a guide on what games you want to go play or purchase or whatever. But ultimately, what I think about a game should not matter to you unless you want it to matter to you, if that makes sense, right?
Oh, it makes sense, yes.
Yeah, because if you want to enjoy a game, go enjoy the game. It doesn't matter. So along those lines, something I said I didn't want to really talk about, because again, I don't like diving into this unnecessary discourse about things. The whole Redfall single player always being online thing.
Mm-hmm.
I do not talk about it online, because it doesn't matter what I say either way. I could say I'm for it. I could say I'm against it. I could say I have no opinion on it. People are going to get upset. And that's the whole problem that we have right now in the gaming culture is you're not allowed to have an opinion that may not necessarily be attacking someone. You're like, hey, this is how I feel about said thing. And then people take that and they run with it and they screenshot you and they just purposely want to get upset over it. And I think that's what's so ridiculous. This whole industry, this gaming is supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be, let me hop on Twitter and argue 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and sit in the spaces for freaking 20 hours a day, arguing the same bullet points over and over and over again. Like, you know, some people that we know, they always jokingly say the greatest video game in the industry right now is Twitter, because people spend more time on Twitter than they do actually playing the games that they allegedly, you know, adore and love so much. So I know I got a little ranty on that, but that's one thing that I purposely try to stay away from. Like, if you see my tweets, I will say what I say and I keep it moving. Obviously, people like yourself, you know, I'll joke around with or whatever, but I do not get into those conversations at all, because I just think they're pointless. And I know we're about to talk about this Gear 6 thing, which will bring me to another point that really annoys me about this industry as a whole. But go ahead. I'm sorry. I know I got a little ranty.
It's yeah. You bring up some excellent points, and I see it all the time. And like, I try to be a positive voice, because you know I don't shy away from a lot of the quote unquote discourse, but it's easy to fall into these traps. I had a lot of people tagging me in PC Gamer's review of Hi-Fi Rush. This PC Gamer gave Hi-Fi Rush a 69 out of 100. And people are like, "Oh my God, can you believe it? Why would they do that?" I'm like, you are finding one negative review. You are looking at this one negative review and ignoring the sea of positive comments, the sea of glowing reviews online, the sea of all of this positivity surrounding a game, and this one negative review. It's gotten under your skin. You think there's an agenda. You think that person is out to get you, out to get Microsoft, and you can, you know, screenshot quotes from their review. But really, if you don't like that review and you don't think it adds value to the conversation, do not inject it into the conversation. That happens so often, where one particular review or one particular thing happens, and that becomes this zeitgeist for this idea that, oh, media's out to get Xbox or XYZ, and there's all of these little anecdotal pieces of information that they kind of weaponize to use as like this fighting point, and this, like you said, draw this line in the sand and make these bold claims. Like, I had people getting mad at me because I said Forspoken was okay. Like, I wasn't even that glowing on it, and people were like...
And that's the point. Yeah, exactly.
And people were just up in arms that I wasn't saying it was outright trash. And I'm like, it's rarely in this day and age does a game come out that is objectively outright trash. It is just, there's so much money and marketing and so many elements in place that try to keep these things from becoming garbage that it's rare that a game actually is garbage. And if we start calling 6 out of 10s and 7 out of 10s garbage, then what is the conversation? If it's, I don't know. Again, we see people do that with Metacritic all the time and weaponize that. And if this game is an 80 Metacritic, it's not that good, and it's exhausting. So yeah again, I try my best to, be a part of the conversation in a way that is constructive where I can, and that's not always reasonable. And if it's not reasonable, then like you, I just kind of don't engage in the conversation.
Agreed.
All right, so quick shout out to everyone who's hanging here, having a good time, joining these, having fun with these rants, having fun at our spicy takes about, my spicy takes about Gears versus Halo. Appreciate y'all. If you're digging the show, hit that like button, share it out, and let's talk about what's next for the Coalition. We just talked a whole bunch about Gears, but there's been a lot of rumors about, what Coalition is working on next. Jeff Grubb, friend of the show, he's previously talked about how he shared this idea that the Coalition was maybe working on a spin-off, a standalone new IP in Unreal 5 to shake off the dust and get ready for Gears of War 6. He has come out recently and said that it sounds like due to, layoffs and shakeups that's not happening anymore, and that the Coalition is pivoting to Gears of War 6. So a couple of questions on this conversation. First off, are you excited about the possibility, whether it happens or not, of a studio like the Coalition trying something new, trying something that is not Gears of War?
100%. I think we've obviously seen recent examples of this where bigger studios chase passion projects, do something smaller, and they've turned out great. So I think that keeps people engaged and excited about game development if they're not just being a factory for one particular IP. If they're doing different things and trying different things, I always think that that's a good thing. So yeah, all for that.
Yeah, I've previously spoken how I would love to see teams like 343 Industries and the Coalition, who have been historically relegated to, you are the Gears team, you are the Halo team. I think, as we've seen, we're going to talk more about it later on, but Hi-Fi Rush is kind of a prime example of, like, let a team try a new idea. Even if it isn't what they're known for, even if they don't have the brand recognition, let them get creative, let them try something new. And I think, as we've seen with Hi-Fi Rush, there's huge potential for those teams to get outside their comfort zone and then maybe bring some new ideas to Gear 6. So it sounds like, according to this, that was kind of the idea with them doing the Matrix demo and with them experimenting with a new IP, was to, get familiar with the engine and maybe incorporate some new ideas into Gears of War 6. So what are you hoping to see from Gear 6? Because spoilers for Gears 5. If you haven't played it, sorry, I will give you a couple seconds to pause it or skip ahead, but Gears 5 ends on a huge cliffhanger. There was, it's obvious that they were going to do a Gear 6. They leave it wide open for Gears 5. Very divisive ending. So what do you want to see from a Gear 6?
It's funny. Hivebusters, basically the DLC that they had to add on for Gears 5 from a gameplay standpoint, I for sure want to see them lean more into that. I almost feel like that was an experiment for the Coalition to see what the reception would be on like that. It is still shocking to me that Xbox has not marketed that DLC more, because I think it was really good. But the big thing then, and I was actually going to bring this up when we were talking about Gears before, but the one thing I feel like that franchise has gotten away from that I really would like to see them lean back into, and ironically enough, the debut trailer we saw that Rod Ferguson showed for Gears 4, I thought, yep, this is where they're going. They need to lean more into the horror aspect of Gears.
Yeah.
I'm because if you go back and play, because I've recently played the first Gears, while the story, Miles, was kind of cheesy, I thought the horror elements of it were pretty good. I think it really, like I said, leaned into that, and they just more and more as we moved on with these sequels, they've gotten away from it, and I think they should go back to that now. So I would hope that Gear 6 could lean into that more. I would like a more intimate game as well. I don't think, and it probably will be, but I don't need a big, huge AAA blockbuster type game. They did 5 kind of a quasi open world. I don't need any of that. I would like focus it on a couple characters and just go from there. Make it a smaller, more intimate story. I think would be great. And like I said, make it a horror. Make it a horror game. I think there is for sure a market for that. I mean, we're obviously seeing that with Dead Space that's being, received very well right now in the market. Lean into that more. That's what I would want from a Gear 6. And obviously we know it'll be on Unreal 5, so it'll just be drop dead gorgeous coming from the Coalition from a visual standpoint. I would like to see a shakeup with the multiplayer. I'm not smart enough to tell you what that is, but I would like to see something different multiplayer wise as well. But yeah, that would probably be my early wish list for whatever Gear 6 is going to be. Yeah,
let me just tell you first and foremost, totally agree on the horror front. Gears and even Halo in a lot of ways has leaned into horror in really successful ways. Gears, the original few, have had these legitimately scary moments that lean into the how scary this world, how scary the enemies are. One of the coolest moments ever of Combat Evolved was the Flood. The way the Flood was introduced was this true, raw survival horror moment. There were glimpses of that in 4. There's one particular moment in Gears 4 where you get introduced to the Swarm for the first time, and you're going through the corridors, and there's the gross pods, and there's the tense music, and it's claustrophobic, and you're like, yes, Gears is going back to horror, and then that's it. And then the rest of Gears 4 is not horror. Gears 5 is not horror at all. So you're like, as a longtime fan, I do want to see them lean into that because there is potential to have that balance of action and horror and drama and as opposed to just the raw spectacle. Gears 5 I liked. I thought Gears 5 was really great. It really told some great human stories, but then some of it was just like, how big can we get this? How big can we make it? Let's throw some tornadoes in there because that'll be cool. Let's get the skiff on there and have them kind of sort of drive around this open world. They either need to fully lean into that or just move away from that, because I felt like that was a half measure. That was one of my least favorite parts of Gears 5 was the pseudo open world. It was just kind of unnecessary. Beautiful environments, don't get me wrong. The game looked incredible, ran incredibly, but that's not necessarily what I want to see from Gears. So Gear 6, I do agree, lean into horror. I do think they need to figure out the multiplayer, and that's tough because, as I've touched on, it plays unlike anything else, so that makes it hard. Like Call of Duty, Halo, Overwatch, you can pick up a controller and you can understand the fundamentals. Whether you're an expert at any of those games, they have obvious parallels that are the same between all of those games. Gears of War, you pick up the controller and you're like, what? Hold A to run? What is this game? And so there's this learning curve because you have to learn an entirely new control scheme, an entirely new method. So there needs to be better onboarding because there's a huge learning curve. And so many people I talk to who don't like Gears say they try the multiplayer and get stomped. And the Gears tryhards are tryhards. And you have people who've been playing Gears of War like myself, who've been playing it since the first one. And they're online every day just stomping these people who don't even understand the controls for the game. So they need to figure out a way to make it more approachable and, reduce some of the skill curve. Because so much of the meta of the game is like the two-piece and the wall bouncing and all these super technical systems that the average person isn't going to bother learning. And so that makes the overall multiplayer experience rough if you don't learn them. So it's almost like the MOBA of shooters. You have to really invest in it to have a good time. And that's not what everyone wants. So what was this rant? I know you were talking about a rant on Gears, on the Coalition topic.
Well, it comes down to this, like the fact that it's being reported on that they canceled, the smaller project or projects that they were working on, and now they're going to focus on Gear 6. They never officially said anything. We're all getting this secondhand because of leaks and rumors. So once again, it creates a discourse within the community upset about a game that you weren't even supposed to know existed in the first place, right? We still don't know 100% if it's true or not. We're all going by rumor and speculation and leaks. And I bring this up because this has been a thing that's come back kind of into the conversation here in the past couple of weeks, like Hi-Fi Rush as an example, where stuff gets leaked. I am a 1000% non-fan of leaks. I do not like leaks. I don't think they do anything good for the industry. And I want to be clear when I talk about leaks versus investigative reporting. when a Jason Schreier does investigative reporting to kind of uncover some bad workplace habits or some mismanagement in leadership or things like that, yes, 100% you should be talking about that. That you're doing actual journalism and work to get that done. Whereas I think a leak, just because somebody told you something that's being worked on that isn't for public knowledge and you put it out there, I don't think that's fair to all the developers, to all the people in marketing, to all the people in PR who have worked months, weeks, years on setting up this stuff. Like, let's say again, as an example, this Xbox showcase that we just had, the developer direct. I love you, Jez. But you putting that out there early is not fair to all the people that were planning that work. And Jez has publicly said why he did it. I get it, because it sounds like other people were going to put it out anyways. I get it. I still don't like it. I don't like it. I'd rather people be surprised by these things. Let these companies announce these things on their terms. And especially when it comes to these rumored things that are being worked on internally and then they never come to fruition, you're just creating more discourse for no reason, because maybe it was an internal thing that was being worked on that was never going to see the light of day, or it was canceled for legitimate reasons, right? Who knows? Maybe the thing that the coalition was working on internally, again, allegedly, it was working on internally with UE5. They got enough out of that, you know what? Let's just go ahead and transition on into Gear 6. We don't need to put this out in the public. We don't need to put this for sale. Maybe there's a reason. We don't know. And all it comes down to is speculation on these things, and people get upset about things. Or, like I said, right now, there's all these crazy rumors about Starfield. When is Starfield coming out? It's getting delayed. It's not getting delayed. Hey, they've not told you anything. They have not officially said it is not coming by June of 2023, which is what they promised in June of 2022. They haven't said anything yet, but because there's leaks and rumors out there, now everyone's getting upset and sky's falling and panicking, and you don't know. And that's what I don't like about leaks and rumors, because we can talk about the things that have been officially announced. We can talk about the things that are out there in the wild, and we can form our opinions on them and give, educated thoughts about the things that we see versus speculating on all these rumor things. And then, look, I'm gonna just keep it real. When you have certain people in this whole journalism industry that will literally go on social media and brag that I'm not signing NDAs, because if I sign an NDA, I can't leak the information and profit off of it. That's the problem with games journalism right now. No, not a fan of it. And even when they say, but you talk about the things we leak, how about this? Don't leak anything, and then we won't have anything to talk about. It's that simple. It really is. And I'm nobody. I am not a journalist. I'm just some dude that's lucky enough to be on some podcasts, and I get to run my mouth a little bit. But as a consumer, as a person who plays games for fun, I like surprises. Again, Hi-Fi Rush. I know it wasn't widely leaked, but I knew the name of the game, and I knew it was coming from Tango Gameworks right before the developer direct. I knew that information because I saw it. That's why leaks suck. I wish, as I'm live watching it, I did not know that, but I did. And that's what I'm saying. Let people have surprises. Let the hard work that you're seeing with these people in marketing and PR and these game development studios, let them announce to the world the thing that they've been working on, versus it coming from some back alley whisper in a DM, and then now you get to put it in your article, and now it's going over social media and you're getting all your impressions on your article. I don't like it. Not a fan.
Yeah,
I'm just not.
The whole situation, I'm very careful with how I talk about, leaks and people who cover leaks, because a lot of it boils down to, we've seen people like Jez talk about the reasons they do it. And obviously when it comes to reporting, you want that scoop. You want to be the first. A lot of the industry and a lot of the way that Google, realistic, if we're being honest, of why that people do this, the way Google rewards a lot of traffic and success is being the first. And so that's what a lot of this boils down to is, being the first to break that story. And I historically haven't been a big fan of sharing leaks, and that's why it's not really something that I've done myself. There have been times where I've talked about code names and stuff like that, and obviously a lot of that's been out, but after talking to people behind the scenes, after talking to developers specifically, that's kind of shifted my approach to handling it, because I've talked to teams and human beings who've changed their entire workplace practice for years. They've had to go jump through all these hoops, do all of these special things to ensure that information doesn't come out. And then when it does come out, it's this huge blow, and it's just this, all these people spent years of their lives like doing this essentially for nothing because it came out anyway. And so for them, it sucks. And I've had, Joe Neat on the show, and I've talked to folks like Joe Neat about that. And it's understandably that sucks for them, and that sucks for that team. And as someone who feels for people who make games, because so much of the conversations right now are about taking away that human element of making games. Like, I don't care if people have to crunch. I don't care what people have to do. I just want games. I just want this now. I don't care about how the sausage is made. There are so many conversations like that. And that's not me. That's not my approach. I don't like that. It really bums me out that anyone feels that way at all, because I understand, like, as some, with a creative background, like what the creative process is and like the hoops you go through to have that moment, to have that reveal. And as a fan, I like this. I like to be surprised. My wife, she doesn't like surprises. Me, oh, I love them. Hit me with a surprise any day of the week. And so going into a lot of Xbox showcases, sometimes I know most of it. Sometimes I'll know like 95% of it. And that's, for me, it is what it is. I'm in the space. I hear the conversations. But it's not that fun to know everything and to have that surprise ruin. So Hi-Fi Rush, while it was still a big surprise, could you imagine what that would have been like if no one knew? If they were successful in their shadow drop and no one knew about it, and it came out and just launched and had that moment? It was still a big deal to a lot of people. And I understand a majority of people are not on Twitter, not on Reddit, not engaged in those conversations. But yeah, it's, again, I understand why people leak stuff. I understand that people want it, but my ask is, like you said, I need there to be meat to this. I don't want it to be, here's a code name, this exists. Because what value does that have outside of just letting people know it exists? And again, people can go online and then people can create content. And I'm a fan of talking about the possibilities. So when I hear about a code name and I hear about what it could be and who it could be from, again, as a fan, I'm excited about that, because I can talk about the possibilities and what that might be, and have big grand dreams of what that project can be. So in that element, from that perspective, I understand, and it is exciting, it is fun. But then those wild expectations, those wild fantasies and conversations that we have about what it could be, that becomes what it's supposed to be. And then when it isn't that, then there's this other conversation that happens. Well, I heard it was going to be this. It was supposed to be this. But really, all of these opinions about what it could be become what it's supposed to be. And it's just this ugly mess of like misinformation that amalgamizes into this ugly monster that isn't what the project is in any way, shape, or form. And then someone is mad. Infamously, Banjo-Kazooie. There was a bunch of rumors, was it last year or the year before, that they were going to reveal Banjo-Kazooie at an Xbox showcase, and there was these rumors.
E3 2019, because I was in the crowd sitting next to Khalif, and that's all we talked about was they're going to show Banjo. Because as you know, I'm a huge Banjo fan. I wanted to come back. Khalif does not want it to come back, and we were joking about that at this was the whole Keanu Reeves Cyberpunk showcase. Yeah, it was that one where everybody thought they were going to announce Banjo-Kazooie, and then it didn't happen. And guess what? I was bummed.
Yeah, it's easy to like.
Right. You see what
fall
I'm saying?
Into that, and you get amped up, and you're like, this is the one, baby. They're doing it. I heard from so-and-so. So-and-so's got this right in the past. So-and-so's got this right. And then you buy into it. And then on the other side, you're mad at Xbox for not doing it. And you're like, well,
for not doing something they never said they were going to do.
Xbox
and that's
like,
the point.
We were never planning to do it. But
right.
Yeah. So again, I'm careful with how I talk about it, because I don't want to say like leakers are bad. Because, I know a lot of personally, I know they're not like trying to be malicious with it. It's just kind of the state of what people want. Realistically, the reason people leak stuff constantly is because people want it. People beg for leaks.
Here's what I think, personally. I think you get so many leaks is because the system's broken. The monetization for journalism is broken. It's about, you got to get clicks. You got to get impressions on your article to make money. So how do you make money? You're first. if you're first with some type of information, whether it's right or wrong, and that's the other crazy thing in our current society, whether the information's right or wrong, if you're first with it, you get the impressions, you get the profit from it. Even if it's wrong and there's a correction later, no one cares. No one's paying attention to that. It's that first hit that matters. So I think that's why you see so many leagues, because our current system is broken. And this is also why you're seeing so many layoffs and things right now in media, because it's a model that's not sustainable. So you've seen the scale back, and obviously we're going through a recession and everything as well. But that's why I think you see leagues, is because if you're first with something and it goes around and it generates millions of impressions and ad dollars, that's how you make money. So I don't agree with it, but it is what it is. So it needs to be fixed at some point.
Yeah, it's the nature of the beast right now, and we could have an entire conversation about, how do we change it, and what's the right model and all of that, but we'll save that for another time. But I know people are in your corner with that. I know people get disappointed with the leagues, and for me, I feel for the teams, because I know that they are very upset when that happens, and that really sucks for a lot of people. So. All right, let's move on to a couple super chats here. We got Matt Without Fear, who says, Parris, there's smoke behind you. I think you left the oven on again. Hashtag Caw can cook. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about EA Motive feeding into this debate, slapping Caw can cook into the Dead Space remake?
So it's so funny, because I had Dead Space early, to review, playing the game. And it was actually Danny. Danny texts me. He sends me a screenshot. And he goes, have you seen this? And I looked and I said, mother effer. I couldn't believe it. I just started laughing so much. And I had even, I told Khalif off to the side. We just had a good laugh about it. But it was funny that happened like right before the spawnies, because I'd been fearing the spawnies so much, because I knew something. I was like, I know he's going to do something. I don't know what it's going to be.
He's going to razz me.
Yeah, it's going to be something. So I've been bracing for impact anyways. And then I saw that, and it was so great to see, because it was Chris Plant over at Polygon, I believe. He was the first one that put it on social media that saw it, because Khalif and I agreed, like, let's not say anything. Let's see if people discover it, for themselves. And then they did, and that kind of blew up. And then obviously the spawnies just happened. For anyone that did not see that, the spawnies, Khalif Adams, Rihanna Manuel Pena co-hosted, and it was an award show, and it was fantastic. It was on Twitch this Monday on the front page. They did a fantastic job. Absolutely loved it. I was fortunate enough to actually present the VR award as a part of that, but I knew something was coming. And when he goes, we got an important message, I just put my head down. I go, oh my God, here it goes. I go, what is it going to be? And to get Austin Creed to basically roast me the way he did was so good. I freaking loved it. And then I had even tweeted at him too. I was like, that's why you lost the Royal Rumble doing that. But yeah, it's been such a fun, friendly rivalry that him and I have had over the past few years, being able to do that, and just the back and forth of it's escalation. So he did what he did initially. Then I got him back at the Xbox show, and then now he's doing this. So now I got some stuff cooking. I got some stuff going. I got to escalate it up, and you know what I mean. So we just keep it going, and obviously, eventually we will pay this off. I know a lot of people. You see people on social media that get sick of it, like, God, you guys are running this into the ground. But the way we both look at it is, for that, every person that dislikes it, it's bringing a smile to the face of another person, right? And we're just having fun. It's fun. If anything, I want to see more of that in the industry, where you're seeing people actually having fun versus, arguing back and forth. Excuse me. But we'll eventually pay it off. We're going to pay it off. It will happen. Obviously, the pandemic kept us apart, so we couldn't do it. But now that things are opening back up,
we got to have the cook-off. We got to get a celebrity chef to curate and judge this cook-off showdown. That's how this needs to culminate. Like
we've talked to some people.
Okay,
it's gonna happen. Don't worry.
I've joked about you previously about locking out Gordon Ramsay. I don't know if you can swing that, but if you can get Gordon Ramsay to judge this ultimate cook-off, I think that's the pinnacle. You cannot top that finale. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, shout out to Ka if you haven't watched it. The Spawnies, beautifully done, beautifully produced. He's been doing it for how many years now? 3?
This was the second one.
Second year. Okay. So yeah, beautiful show, award show. Check that out if you haven't. Ka's been on the show a bunch of times. Awesome dude. A lot of work went into that. And this year really stepped up the game. Using the spare bedroom, got that studio space just nice and tight. It was looking good.
Yeah. Phenomenal space. Real quick, if I could suggest, if you ever get the opportunity, you're in San Francisco, go to the spare bedroom up at Kind of Funny. It's just phenomenal what they've been able to do. And obviously you see what Kind of Funny all the time, but to see what they were able to do with the Spawny, it's just a high production value in there. It's just great. You'd love it.
I've been talking to Mike for a while because he's been talking about the studio work behind the scenes, and everyone's just been so stoked about it. So it was really cool to see that moment where they revealed the studio and to see them like going about Kind of Funny in this new space. It's really cool.
Yeah.
One of the super chat from Danny Passion Official, who says, "I couldn't agree more. Leaks are a pain sometimes." Okay, another unfortunate topic that we need to dive into this week is regarding the games as a service bloodbath, realistically, that's happened over the last couple of weeks. We have seen countless games as a service titles announce they are shutting down very soon. And it's just been day after day, wave after wave of a lot of higher profile games as a service titles getting shut down. We had Apex Legends Mobile, Battlefield Mobile, Crossfire X, Knockout City, Rumbleverse, a smaller scale, but Back for Blood announced that they were stopping support and moving on to their next project. So there's just a lot of question marks about games as a service. So before we dive into the bulk of the conversation and the bulk of, basically what this boils down to is a lot of people are now questioning whether or not publishers will lean into games as a service titles. But before we dive into that conversation, are there any of these games as a service titles you'll miss? I want to just, if there's any you want to give a shout out. Yeah.
Rumbleverse. And we talked about this on Xcast because we're all big fans of it. We had Adam Boyce, when they were launching it, come on, talk about it. And I feel guilty in a way because I truly enjoyed that game. I have not been playing it recently just because I'm doing 10,000 other things. And it was I'll get to it. And ultimately now I'll never get to it because the game's going away. So I feel like I'm part of the problem. Whereas games like that are good. It's not that it's a bad game. It's not that it doesn't have content. It's not that it's not engaging to you, but you take for granted that it's just going to be there so you can pick it up and play it whenever you want. Whereas if the population obviously was low, it didn't have a lot of engagement, these games can and will go away. So do I think games as a service are going on? No, I don't. I mean, obviously we've seen that Sony is planning to put out 10 or 12 of them, something crazy number they were talking about that they're planning to do. Obviously Microsoft was just attempting that with Halo Infinite. So games as a service are not going away. It needs to just do something unique to stand out from the crowd so that people want to engage with it. You have to have the content first and foremost, and you have to have a gameplay loop that's fun and engaging, or people are going to move on to something else, and it, as we're seeing, will go away. Maybe I think Hyperscape is a great example of this from Ubisoft, where they just did basically the cookie cutter standard battle royale. Why am I going to stop playing Fortnite to play your game if you're basically just a clone of what I'm already playing and I'm already invested into? You weren't doing anything unique enough to pull me away from Fortnite to want to go jump in and start playing your game. So I think that's what we'll see moving forward. Like, again, as an example, this Last of Us multiplayer game that's coming out. I mean, that's a world and a universe you're going to want to be in, engage with, where if they're doing enough unique things in there, I think they'll be fine as far as having the population wanting people to play. Obviously, Destiny has been around since 2014. Fortnite is around. Warzone is around. To Tatanka, however the hell you say it, allegedly rumored again, talking about leaks. We'll see what this Halo one is going to be, and what is that going to do to keep people engaged. But no, I don't think they're going to go away. It's just you're going to have to constantly keep reinventing yourself when you're doing these, that you're not just copy and pasting what the competition is doing. You got to stand out.
Yeah, Knockout City is the one of this list that I think, when you talk about doing something original, when Knockout City came out, there was nothing else like it. Like this dodgeball competitive multiplayer game.
Mm-hmm.
And the gameplay was tight. It felt incredible. But like you mentioned with Rumbleverse, I felt bad because I played it a lot the first 2 weeks. And then I moved on to something else, and I didn't find myself coming back to it. And the team at Knockout City put out a lengthy blog post, a great read, really, about the state of the game, about what went wrong. And they basically talked about how they were really proud of the systems, and they did a lot of iteration on the gameplay, but they have just realized that the amount of work it would do to get people returning to the game as it stands was not worth really investing in based on their current player count. So they are working on what's next. They haven't said if that's going to be a Knockout City 2 or what, but they have said they're taking what they've learned from that project and they're moving it forward. And it's nice to have those candid conversations about the woes of games as a service model, because outside of originality, I think where a lot of these games falter and a lot of these games struggle is that they all are vying to be the game that you play. Every single one of them is this huge time sink. They want you to invest all of your time, all of your energy into this FOMO and this idea that I have to play through this battle pass, I have to grind this out, and the only way to get through that battle pass is to play it every single day. I understand they want to ensure engagement. I understand they want a rewarding gameplay loop. But really, for the average person, I think it's just a chore, and you just can't have multiple of those games in your life. Because if you play Knockout City a couple times, you don't feel rewarded. And so you're not going to go back and play. So the only way to feel rewarded is this trap of spending all of your time and energy in it. And they were all doing it, all of them at the same time. And you have 20, 30 games who want that to be the only game that you play. And that's not a sustainable model. As we've seen, people's tastes have shifted. People play more games than ever before, not less.
Completely agree with you. Can I acknowledge something I see in the chat?
Yeah.
Because I think it'll help to clarify something I said before. So this person is saying it's not about copy and pasting, not about being different. It's the people who can play these type of games always move on quick, no matter how good. Disagree. I'll take my children as an example. They play Fortnite. They've been on that game for years. So it's not like they're moving on to Apex or they're trying to move on to the next thing. They're staying in a game that they've invested in and that is encouraging them to come back every day to want to play it. And that's the point that I'm trying to make. If you're going to jump into that battle royale games as a service market, then you better be doing something that's going to capture the attention of a player and keep them there so that they're not looking for the next thing. And that's the problem. These games that we're seeing that are getting shut down weren't doing something unique enough to keep me there. Where I'm like, okay, that was fun too. Going back to what you were just talking about, okay, yeah, it was fun. All right, now I'm going to move on to something else. But if you do something unique enough and fun enough, like an Apex, like a Warzone, like a Fortnite, obviously, even a PUBG. I mean, we forget that's kind of the OG in all of this, or Destiny, as an example. I've been on that game again. I keep saying it. I've been playing that game since 2014. I have zero plans of ever leaving that game. Do I take a break here and there? Of course I do, but it's something that I know I always want to come back to and play because it's doing something, excuse me, with its content to keep pulling me back in. I'll give you another example, The Division. I was super addicted to the Division, and then I kind of fell off the Division, and I haven't gone back because it stopped doing the thing that would pull me back in every day. I didn't see an incentive to want to go back and play the Division anymore. So I kind of, quote unquote, moved on from it. So I think that's the problem with Halo Infinite right now. Why do you think people aren't playing Halo Infinite? Because I keep playing the same gosh darn maps over and over. I keep doing the same gosh darn modes over and over. I don't feel that the battle pass in Halo Infinite is rewarding me enough to want to run through it and get, obviously get the content that's coming out of it. You're not doing the things to keep keep me into that Halo multiplayer. Yeah, it was fun to play when it first came out, but now here we are over a year later. Where's my incentive to want to come back to it? That's the point that I'm trying to make when I talk about all that.
I think a big problem for a lot of these games as a service title, as a lot of them shift to free to play, which is it's a good move in some ways, but a lot of these games don't respect your time and your financial investments. They really don't. Halo Infinite, horrible. I wrote a just scathing editorial about the launch state of Halo Infinite and what you got for your money. It was abysmal. And a lot of these games are the same way. Multiverses. You've heard me talk about how great Multiverses is, how the core gameplay is incredible. I love it. One of the best fighting games in a long time. The Battle Pass sucks. The Battle Pass is so brutal. I played that game every day, or I played that game almost every single day, and I got towards the end of a season, and I wasn't even halfway through the Battle Pass. I'm like, no, this can't be it. I'm not going to sit here and play your game for 4 hours every single day just to get this Bugs Bunny skin at the end of this. Like, I've already invested money into the game to get the Battle Pass. I just can't stand the privilege of grinding. Paying to have the privilege to grind a game is it's a gross tactic that gets used a lot, and it's this sunk cost fallacy where they want to trap you and say, well, I paid money for the game, so I need to play it. I know it's a free-to-play game, but I paid for the Battle Pass, so I need to play it. And that's the marketing trap. That's the psychological trap they try to catch you in. But people aren't that dumb, I think, is really what it boils down to. Just people see through that, and people get frustrated by that. And then at the other side, you have a game that you can't just casually jump into. Why I love Fortnite and why I come back to Fortnite constantly is because I can play Fortnite for a couple weeks. I can play Fortnite for a week at a time and feel good. When I buy something in Fortnite, I don't feel bad about it. When I'm hitting the gritty as Goku, or when I'm hitting the gritty as Ash from Evil Dead, I don't feel bad about spending $20 because that just has this immense value, like this comic value. When I'm in a match doing it, yeah, let's go. I paid $10 to play Master of Puppets in Fortnite. Didn't blink an eye, and I'm spamming that emote every single time I'm in the game. Every time I get a kill, I'm blasting Master of Puppets. And so Fortnite has found this really great way to make it feel like when you spend money or you spend time in the game, you get something. And that is why people come back. And a lot of these other games have tried that fundamental mentality, but they don't have the payoff. They don't have the rewards that stack up. They don't have the rewards that compete. And so they look at it in the most cynical way possible. And I think that's where this comes from, is you had a lot of people looking at Fortnite and saying, damn, Fortnite makes so much money. Damn, Apex Legends makes so much money. How do we get a piece of that? And so they would have a great core game, like Knockout City, great core game, but then the monetization, the progression is a mess, and it's, I don't know. It's complicated. I agree with you. I don't think we're going to see less of them, but I think a lot of people are going to be way more careful about how they launch them. So,
agreed.
As we move forward, what are the lessons you hope these teams and publishers have learned from this kind of first wave of games as a service titles?
I mean, it's tough to say what the lesson learned is, because at the bottom line, you have to figure out what is the thing that your game's going to do, to your point, that we can monetize it and is going to be that carrot on the end of the stick to have them coming back. It's finding that out, what that's going to be. You honestly aren't going to truly know that until the game is out in the wild. The one lessons learned that I think any games as a service has is have a roadmap that people can know when content is coming out, and stick as close as you can to that roadmap for consistent content as you possibly can. Because without additional content, all these games can launch great. We've seen that over and over. It's not about the launch. It's about, what am I doing in month 3, month 6, year 1, year 2, year 5? What are you doing to keep me coming back? That probably, I guess, as you're asking the question as I'm answering it now, that's probably the lessons learned that I would take from.
Step into the Thunderdome, you better be ready to just bring it, because there's so much competition in the space that it is so hard to walk in there and be successful. So if you're gonna try it, if you're gonna do it, make sure you're ready to do it, because man, you can't do any half measures in this space, because there are so many established games. All right, let's move on to our next topic here, which is a roller coaster of emotions when it comes to the Xbox 360 marketplace. It's been a week. It's been a roller coaster of a week. There's been a lot of talks about the digital future, about if our purchases are being respected, and part of that stems from this kind of support page query that came up that suggested that in May of 2023. Here, I'll read the exact quote here. The Xbox website search support page dropped a curious note claiming that the Xbox 360 marketplace will be closing over the next year, so we encourage you to purchase any 360 games or DLC by May 2023. Initially, people took this as, oh damn, the 360 marketplace is closing, it's done, it's shutting down. But there's been an update from a Microsoft spokesperson that says, this message was posted in error, and we can confirm the Xbox 360 marketplace will not close in May 2023. As a reminder, beginning on February 7th, 2023, a limited set of games, add-ons, and in-game content will no longer be purchasable in select markets via the Xbox 360 store. So let's dive into the implications here, Parris. Let's dive into this. Do you think that the Xbox 360 marketplace is coming to a close? Maybe not in May. They're telling you not May, but in the nearest future.
I mean, obviously, it's very possible. I mean, we've seen other examples of this, on other platforms that it happens. I mean, we're talking the 360 platform or marketplace, excuse me, which that's kind of bad math now. When did the 360 retire? 2013. So we're talking a decade ago. Yeah. As far as the 360. So no, it would not surprise me if that happens. Unfortunate. Would I want it to go away? Of course not. But if it does, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, it's as we move towards this digital future, it's increasingly feels inevitable that these services will come to a close.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The interesting kind of question with this is, what does that mean for backwards compatibility? We know Microsoft has really touted that, and they've really invested in backwards compatibility. So do you think on current gen machines, your Xbox One and your Xbox Series consoles, do you think that means we won't be able to buy backwards compatible games on that storefront?
Potentially. I mean, that's very possible, obviously, right? I would hope not. I would hope there is still a way to access those legacy games. And more I'm thinking about it, I'm finding a hard time believing that Microsoft would completely close off being able to pick up a legacy title somehow, some way. So I do think there'll be some avenue to be able to still get those. And now they've obviously stopped their backwards compatibility program. So the games that are backwards compatible, I would imagine you should still be able to get those games to purchase somehow, some way for people that do not own them already, which just makes sense to me. Plus, we already know some of them are already like in the service like Game Pass. So I would imagine there would still be a way to purchase them somehow.
I hope so. I hope that's the route, or they give ample time if they are going to stop sales of 360 and say, all right, here's the deadline. Buy any games. They'll still be in your library. You can still download them, but after this date, you won't be able to. Because it sounds like in some markets, they're already pulling games. So that makes me feel like these licenses are coming to a close and they're not going to bother renewing them, or they don't have a way to renew them. And that's really what this boils down to 90% of the time, is that the licensing rights expire. And when that happens, nobody's around to collect the money. And because nobody's around to collect the money, they can't sell it. And so they have to delist it. And so that feels like what's happening with a lot of these legacy games.
And that very well could be. I would just hope to like the point that you're saying, at least give everyone enough of a heads up that if it's going away for good or for a really extended period of time, because of, like you're saying, licensing issues, give enough of a heads up that if somebody absolutely really needs Banjo-Kazooie, they have the chance to go back in there and go buy it.
Absolutely. My hope, my ultimate dream from this is this means exclusively this is the Xbox 360 storefront when you boot up the Xbox 360.
Right.
If you are someone who still has an Xbox 360 connected to the internet, I hope that what this means is that console, that storefront will be replaced, and they've transitioned all of that back compat stuff to the Xbox, the current Xbox storefront. So that way, some games will be lost. There are games currently on the Xbox 360 marketplace that don't exist via backwards compatibility. So I think those will definitely be gone, but I really, really hope this doesn't impact the current backwards compatibility, because they just added stuff like Otogi 1 and 2 not that long ago. So that last batch, they brought a lot of really cool, exciting games, and it would be sad if that was so short-lived. So that's my hope. I want to have another question for you here, because I'm a digital heathen. I don't want to buy physical games anymore. I don't buy physical games anymore.
Yeah, me either.
I haven't put a single disc in my Xbox Series X disc drive. I bought the digital version of the PlayStation 5. My Switch, I own one physical game, and that is Breath of the Wild, because I bought the collector's edition at launch. I do have a lot of legacy games. I do have a lot of legacy discs, but I mostly buy digital. But increasingly, I feel like, in some ways, we get the short end of the stick. We take the convenience, and that means that we don't own certain things in perpetuity. And I feel like, and I guess I'll ask you this, should digital game owners be entitled to better ownership of the stuff that they buy? Should there be some sort of recourse that says, all right, company, if you're going to sell this, you need to ensure that that person will own it?
Of course. I mean, yes. I mean, simple answer, yes. But we know it's more complex than that, unfortunately.
Yes.
But to simplify it, absolutely, there should be some assurances that I will always have access to my digital copy of said item that I purchased, right? But we know it's more complicated than that. To your point now of everything, there's licensing and things expire. There's always these weird legal mumbo jumbo things that happen that could potentially lock you out of something. I think of, this isn't necessarily the best example, but this is a more recent thing. I think about Google with shutting down Stadia, right?
Oh yeah.
All the things that you bought out of there, they obviously refunded everybody, so that's good. But all those games that you may have bought through there, there's no other way for you to now transfer that over into another platform and continue playing it, right? Because that service went away. That's the one fear that you would have with an Xbox or a PlayStation or anything. That now the fact that we're buying them digital, if Xbox goes away tomorrow, that's it.
That's it.
How are you playing any of these digital games that you have, unless Microsoft somehow, some way says, we'll allow you to download your entire digital library, put it on a hard drive, and we're turning off the DRM license check for it. So you will have them forever to play. That would be the only assurance that you always would have access to it. But how realistic is that really? It's probably not going to happen. Not to mention things that require patching it, all chaos. All that.
And again, like you said, it is very complicated. And you see people on either side say, all right, well, that's why I only buy physical. But as we've seen more and more, sometimes when you buy a physical game, it doesn't mean anything.
There's no such thing anymore.
Hogwarts Legacy is coming out. That is going to require you to sign in on day one and download a patch.
Yep.
That is required. It's not an optional thing. You don't get to play the game unless you download that day one patch. So that this is going to mean absolutely nothing in 10 years.
Exactly. This isn't 1990 and I have Super Mario Brothers 3 on an NES cartridge that I could plug into an NES today and still play, right? Because it doesn't require anything additional. Whereas we know how it is. Again, it's part of technology. It's the advancements that we have. But now saying like it's funny you said about having a physical disc. I have one physical disc for my Xbox Series X. It's Cyberpunk 2077. And it has been literally sitting in there since December of 2020 because I have no need for anything else. But I know that's really not the game. All that is a disc that's doing a DRM check. And I'm downloading everything to play. So if, for God forbid, some reason I needed to put that Cyberpunk disc in 5 years from now with no internet, it's basically an unplayable game because that's not the game anymore. What's on that disc is not the game. It's evolved so much that it's no longer the game that it was when they pressed that disc back in 2020. And that's the thing that we're going to see moving forward with every game. It's just a reality of it.
So as we move towards that, again, I don't have the solution. I don't know what the solution is, but I still find it kind of baffling that consumers don't have the ability to gift, or sell games that they own in their digital libraries. There's no marketplace on most platforms to do that.
Well, if you remember, talk about things that remember the original question. Say something about Xboxes you know are going to make people mad. I have another one for you.
Oh no.
The original vision for the Xbox One in 2013 was the right one. I've always thought that. I've always
online
thought
only
that. Yes.
Xbox One with Kinect?
And everybody, well, no, forget the Kinect. Not a fan of that. No. I'm talking about, remember, they had the always online. You were going to be able to share your games. You're going to be able to share your digital copy licenses of games back, all that stuff that they were saying. It was just way ahead of its time doing it. But the core, and let me be crystal clear, what they were trying to do was a disaster. Don't get me wrong. But the idea, the motivation behind it, the advancement of digital, I agree with. I still agree with to this day.
You know what?
That made sense to me. But they just didn't execute it very well. That was the problem.
They were looking, again, they were way too forward thinking for the average person, but they were looking at this idea that things are going digital only. Like, that is just the reality.
Yes.
As we know now, like, no matter how you feel about digital versus physical, more and more games will not have a physical release at all. That is the reality. You're going to see so much less. And I think by the time the next consoles come around, I don't think the PlayStation 6 or the Xbox, whatever, will have disc drives. If I'm being honest, I don't think they'll have disc drives. Most PCs, you don't buy a disc drive for your PC anymore. So consoles are, a little bit behind on that curve, but
right. Because I'm in that world now. We're in the 2030s. All digital. I buy Elder Scrolls 6 because that's probably when it's coming out. So I buy Elder Scrolls 6. I played through Elder Scrolls 6. I enjoyed it. I had a good time with it. I can take that digital copy that I own, that digital license, and I can give it to you, Miles.
Let's go. That's
same way a physical disc would have worked. I should be able to do that. I should be able to say, you know what? I'm now going to give up my digital license of Elder Scrolls 6. I'm going to give it to Miles. I should be able to share that to him. Or I should be able to sell it back, so to speak, that I'm giving it back. And look, we know how GameStop works. So you know you're not going to get anything really for it. But say I got $10 for it, $15 for it. I'm no longer going to play that game. I'm not giving it to a friend. I want the $15 because I want to apply that to some other game that I want to get, to have that option for it. That's where all this is eventually going to lead, I think, personally. And that's what Xbox was trying to do a decade ago. And obviously, like I said, just too far ahead of its time.
What I want to be able to do is I want to go on my Xbox, go into my friends list, have a game that I'm playing. And I want a buddy to say, hey, I haven't tried that. I want to play this game. Yeah. I want to select that person's name on my friends list and let them borrow that game.
Yep, loan it out to them.
Give them a 24 or 72-hour period of time where they have access to that game. Like, those are the things that I want to see, and we really need to start seeing. Like, I know people say, oh, well, we pay for the convenience. It is what it is. That sucks that I lose all these things that I buy. But that doesn't have to be the reality, and we really need to start making companies kind of give us a little more power in this. This dynamic is skewed in one direction, and it's not skewed in our favor, because as soon as it's not financially, beneficial for them to give us access to these games, it's gone. If they have to pay for the servers and they're not making a bunch of money on it, they're shutting it down, they're turning it off, and they're revoking your access. And so we really need some sort of dynamic that leans in our favor a little bit more. Again, I don't know what the solution is, but there needs to be some better form of digital ownership, especially as we have these conversations of more and more marketplaces shutting down, more and more games shutting down. And at the end of it, we were just talking about all these games as a service titles. At least Stadia refunded people's monies. That was shocking to me. Yes. I was not expecting Google to refund everyone's purchases. That is a big move. Big ups to Google on that one, because I was expecting them to be like, oops, sorry, you had fun. Any purchases you made in the last 2 weeks will refund you. But no, other than that, just imagine being on the other side of a games as a service title that you spent like $1,000 on. and then that's just gone.
Mm-hmm.
You have nothing to show outside of your memories, and then maybe we could argue that the memories and our experiences with those games, they're priceless, Parris. So I'm
but that's kind of the thing. Like, again, let's just take Destiny as an example. If Bungie shuts down tomorrow, that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it.
That's it.
All the years.
Oh, your exotics, Parris, they're gone.
Yeah, they're gone. There's nothing tangible I can take away from that. I can't play Destiny offline. It's gone. You know. So again, it's a part of the world that we live in now. It's the digital age that we live in now. The advancements in technology that we're seeing with gaming, the utilization now of cloud tech. I can say cloud tech, that's so cliche, but using cloud servers, things like Azure and obviously AWS to basically stream in assets and use cloud compute to help with these games. That's where everything's going. It just is. Whether we like it or not, kicking and screaming, that's where gaming is going. So always online, digital, all these things are going to become more and more of a reality in our entertainment and our gaming experiences.
Yeah, and that's really what it is. And I'm not against it. I've embraced the digital. I've embraced the, downside of having an entirely digital library, but I can't help but think maybe there's a better way. I don't have the solutions. And again, a lot of these companies probably don't care to offer a solution because it doesn't benefit them financially. But I'm hoping there is some sort of option down the road, because we are going to get to a point very quickly where you will not be able to buy a disc for most of the games you want to play.
Yep.
And that's going to be sad. All right, let's talk about Hi-Fi Rush, Parris, because last week Xbox shadow dropped, infamously shadow dropped Hi-Fi Rush. Huge.
I hate to do this because I had messaged you, but I actually have to go.
Oh, you got a dip. Yeah. Snap. Okay.
At the time, I hate to do it, but let's talk about Hi-Fi Rush really quick, and then unfortunately, I have to take off.
All right, no problem. Let's talk about Hi-Fi Rush real quick. Obviously, big win for Xbox. Obviously, a shadow drop for Xbox. Why has Hi-Fi Rush been such a big hit for Xbox? Let's just jump straight into that. What is the magic sauce?
I think because the game's good. I think it's as simple as that. It's really good. It's very fun to play. It's a genre I normally do not touch. Rhythm games is not something that I would even attempt to go play. I think shadow dropping it and having it available immediately helped in that aspect. I think it being on Game Pass helps in that aspect, because even if, full disclosure, I did get a review code, but even if I didn't get a review code, it being on Game Pass and available immediately, I would have said, yeah, you know what? Let me go try it. And the second I picked it up and I got through that first tutorial, I go, I get it. Son of a gun. I'm in. Like, to me, once you get past Mimosa, which is one of the middle bosses, I think track 6, 7 up in there somewhere, everything after that is just absolutely phenomenal. I'm still not good at rhythm games, but it does it in a way of it teaches you how to play the game along the way, all the different things that you're going to be able to do, all the abilities, everything, that by the time you get to that middle point of the game, it really just opens up and you can just go from there. Like, I'm just god awful horrible at parrying still. The samurai almost threw my controller 20 times at the screen trying to get through that. But once you get through it, God, it's so satisfying once you get through it. The music is phenomenal in it. The visual, the art style is great. We talk about dialogue. You've seen that kind of discourse back and forth. Some people might think it's a little cringy or whatever, but I think it's great. I really do. I think it works for me. I think the homages to some of the different other entertainment properties that they bring into that, like one that I brought up a few times is Scott Pilgrim. Like, all the boss battles just brings me into kind of the Scott Pilgrim universe when I think about things like that. It's just a great game. It is very fair to say that, kind of funny we gave it 5 out of 5, but it is very fair to say that this game is, not only is it the best game for Xbox so far in 2023, and I know we're still in January, but it would not shock me if Keely's talking about this at the end of the year. That good. It's an early game of the year contender. Absolutely. And just such a breath of fresh air at the same time to have a game like this. And the final thing I'll say is, to me, something that I've been critical of Xbox over the years, is why I joke around about Banjo-Kazooie all the time, is Xbox outside of Master Chief is lacking that identifiable mascot. I think we just got it with Chai and 808. I do. I really do. I would be flabbergasted if we do not see those characters, not just those two, but just the whole roster. If we don't see these hi-fi characters, Hi-Fi Rush characters showing up in other properties, and in the Xbox showcase presenting something, like I guarantee you we're going to see them more, because that's just how identifiable and fun they were. One early example we already saw from the community: somebody created a library in Forza Horizon 5 for Hi-Fi Rush, and it looks phenomenal. We're going to see more of those things with that game. That's how good it was.
It's been so long since we've had a universal hit for Xbox on this level. This isn't a game where there's a but attached. And I feel like so many Xbox first-party games, whether you like them or not, whether you love them or not, somebody's had a but. Somebody said, oh, well, but this, but that. And Hi-Fi Rush is the first time you see it on social media. You see it online. There's no buts. People are just saying Hi-Fi Rush is a damn good game. It's fun. It's bright. It's colorful. It's creative. It's a video game first and foremost. It wants to have fun with you. It wants to have fun with itself. And that is just such a beautiful, rare thing. There's so much originality to Hi-Fi Rush. And I think that's why it's speaking to so many people, is because there are similarities. It's similar to Devil May Cry in some ways. You mentioned Scott Pilgrim. Obviously pulls some inspiration from Scott Pilgrim. But also, you can look at this on the screen. You can see people sharing it on Twitter, and you can say, I want to play this. This is pulling. This looks exciting. This looks fun. I haven't seen anything like this, especially from the Xbox camp. And that, coupled with the fact that it drops straight into Xbox Game Pass, just makes it, there's no question. This looks fun. I can download it on Game Pass, so I'm going to play it. Oh, damn, it is fun. And then that word of mouth spreads, and it's just been this universal acclaim. We joked about the PC Gamer review earlier. That's just an isolated thing. For the most part, this game is getting universal acclaim.
But that's their opinion. But to bring it all full circle, that's their opinion. That's fine. I saw it and I go, okay, don't agree, but all right, you move on, But
I agree with you. I think this will be in the Game of the Year conversations, and that's going to be a huge boon for Xbox, especially if Starfield hits and is the juggernaut that everyone wants it to be. We're primed for a world where Xbox has multiple games in the Game of the Year conversations this year, and I think that's going to be, big for the people who still have question marks about the Xbox output.
Right.
But Parris, sounds like you got to wrap it up, so I'll give you a chance to, close yourself out. One more time, thank you for joining me. Thanks for hanging out, chatting with everyone. Before you jump out, where can people get a hold of you, my man?
Sure thing. You can find me over at Gamertag Radio. You can find me over at Kinda Funny. I'm on social media at Vicious696 everywhere.
Beautiful. Parris, appreciate you, man. I'm going to keep rocking. I got a few more topics I'm going to jump into. But Parris, appreciate you. Have an awesome weekend, and I'll talk to you soon, man.
All right, talk to you soon. Thank you for having me again. It's always a good time. We'll talk soon.
All right, take care. Solo time. Uh-oh. The party don't stop, y'all. Unfortunately, you're stuck with me, okay? We have some more stuff that we need to talk about. I'm going to keep going. Appreciate y'all joining me. Appreciate y'all hanging out. Appreciate y'all showing some love for Parris. Always love having him on. Did not catch his note about him needing to dip, so he's out of here. But I want to talk about two more topics, because I didn't talk about Halo last week. I didn't talk about the future of Halo, so I need to talk about Halo. There's been a lot of Halo developments that I need to dive into. So we're going to dive into all of the Halo juice, the drama, the meat, if you will. So let's do it. Let's just dive straight into that. All right, y'all. Again, sorry. Appreciate y'all bearing with me here. All right, so final major topic. I was going to talk a little bit about Xbox earnings, how they compared to PlayStation earnings, but I'll sum that up really quickly. Xbox earnings were down. PlayStation earnings were up. People have filled in the blanks about why that is. PlayStation's better, the typical hoorah, all that sort of thing. Real quick on that subject, I just want to say it is interesting because That shows you that God of War was a massive hit for PlayStation, and that shows you the weight of having a massive hit for your platform, because PlayStation was up in software and PlayStation was up in hardware because they had this unquestionable hit that everyone wanted to play over the holidays, and Xbox did not. Xbox closed out their holidays with no big games, and they were down in software and down in hardware as well. So that's just kind of the reality. I don't want to get into the console wars, but this, but that. The reality is Microsoft was down. And the reality was PlayStation was up like 50%. So a huge increase. So a huge boon over an already impressive, year-over-year growth there. But we got to talk about Halo. We got to talk a little bit about the future of Halo. So last week, Rand and I were going to dive into this, but, Rand just keeps going. Rand, I love him, but at 3 hours, I had to say, all right, we're shutting this down. I'm sorry, we gotta wrap this up, dude. So we didn't get to talk about Halo. But since then, there has been just a host of developments and updates, because obviously we are all familiar with the layoffs. Microsoft announced 11,000 layoffs at the start of the year. 343 Industries was heavily impacted by those layoffs. There was a rumor that came out that suggested that 343 Industries wasn't going to be the primary development team. They would be a liaison for the Halo franchise, and they would basically contract out Halo development to other studios. So there was all of this uncertainty. Joseph Staten left. Joseph Staten moved to Xbox Game Studios and left 343 Industries. So there were a lot of question marks, and that led people to speculate that the future of Halo is very much up in the air. People were not confident about the future of Halo. So 343 Industries put out that tweet that was just like, 343 Industries is here to stay, and so is Halo. And then you've had Phil Spencer address it in interviews saying that, Halo is still an important and critical core pillar for the Xbox brand, and it's not going to... So they've had to damage control because of a lot of negative developments surrounding 343. And further negative developments come from Jason Schreier of Bloomberg, who put out a big report. And I would highly recommend you go read the entirety of it, because it gives us a peek behind the curtains at what's happening at 343. But the highlights are, first and most unfortunate, is the restructuring that's going on cost at least 95 developers at 343 Industries their jobs. So at least 95 people were let go from 343 Industries. Additionally, this report claims that Halo is moving away from the Slipspace engine and a lot of the controversy surrounding that, and they are moving to Unreal Engine. So that kind of ties into the original rumors we had heard as well. Apparently, Slipspace had caused a lot of issues with core game modes being delayed because people were struggling to work with the engine. So they're moving away from that. The first project to use Unreal Engine 5 is going to be Project Tatanka. Folks like Jez Corden have talked about this. Originally, it was rumored to be a battle royale, but it sounds like potentially the scope has increased, and this might just be the new platform for Halo. And so another component of this rumor was that 343 has paused active development on all campaign story-related content. There were some teams working on stuff for Halo Infinite. There were some teams prototyping and pitching ideas for story content in the Halo world. But for now, it sounds like all single-player story content is paused. It's paused, according to this report from Jason Schreier. So, a lot to unpack here. There's a lot to unpack about this, but it really kind of reaffirms some of the rumors about 343 Industries, and it really shows that 343 Industries is undergoing a major shakeup. Regardless of how you feel about Halo Infinite, whether you loved it, whether you hated it, whether you didn't think the rollout was very strong, clearly Microsoft is not happy with its reception. We've seen surveys going around where Microsoft is basically asking, are you still playing Halo Infinite? And that's not a good question to have on a survey. That's not a good... Those optics aren't great for the future of Halo Infinite. So there is a big question mark on the future of Halo Infinite right now. Obviously, there is seasonal content that is planned. Obviously, I think they're going to lean into that until they figure out what Project Tatanka is going to be, what the scope and scale is going to be. So I think there still will be a few more seasons of Halo Infinite, but it's definitely safe to say that the 10-year hopes and dreams of Halo Infinite are dead and gone. Halo Infinite, at this point, it's uncertain whether it'll last another full year or two, depending on what they're doing with Project Tatanka, with Certain Affinity, depending on how far along that is, because I imagine now they're pivoting towards that, and they want that out They want that to be the new multiplayer suite and the new multiplayer offering for Halo. And then they'll use Infinite as the Forge tool, the community tool there. So a lot of people also have talked about, will Halo feel like Halo in Unreal? And I think if it's easier to work with, I think just let them figure it out. I think they can create a game that feels very Halo-ish in Unreal. I know some people say that's impossible, but especially as we look at the toolkits for Unreal Engine 5, it's safe to say there's a lot more flexibility with this engine. There's going to be a greater emphasis on physics, and they probably can get an experience that feels pretty close to what we know with Halo. Again, as we've seen with Halo 2 Anniversary versus the original Halo 2, hardcore fans will notice those subtle changes. They will notice the subtle differences in the way the weight of the game, how the game feels, and that will be a problem for some people. But it is what it is. Clearly, according to this report, people were having a hard time working with Slipspace. And Slipspace, it sounds like, was bits and pieces of a bunch of older engines kind of coming together, cobbled together to create the new engine for Halo. I've talked about this previously, but I thought Halo Infinite was the best playing Halo game. So and that, from that standpoint, when it comes to what the engine did for just how the game feels, Halo Infinite is the best feeling Halo. It just is. I've gone back since Halo Infinite has come out, and I've played all of the Halo games. Halo Infinite feels the best. And so that's a testament to Slipspace, but it sounds like when it comes to getting people on board, it's slowing things down. It's slowing the pipe down to the point where it's unsustainable, and they're just, it sounds like, according to this, completely moving away from it. So, man, I guess I'll ask you guys here, and this will be kind of my next talking point, but what do we want to see from the future of Halo? And that's something we've seen a lot of people discuss online since this report broke, and since there's been a lot of conversation surrounding this. And I think there is a reality where we do see Halo projects from other developers, and I don't think that's a bad thing. Earlier in the show, I talked about how I wanted to see 343 Industries, and I wanted to see the Coalition branch out to other projects. I would also love to see the Halo license go to passionate teams who have a bold idea. I want to see 343 be that liaison and say, all right, you have an idea for a survival horror Halo game. Let's hear it and see if we can make that come to life. And so I don't think there's fundamentally a problem when it comes to 343 not being the only team developing Halo. I think there are possibilities for that to actually improve the output of Halo games. More Halo games, more diversity in Halo games. And we're going to see that more with a lot of key franchises in general. We're going to see it with Tomb Raider. We're seeing it with Silent Hill. We're going to see it with Halo. We're just going to see these big juggernaut franchises be licensed out to passionate teams who have great ideas, because financially, that just makes more sense. When we look at the scope of the games industry, when we look at how long it takes to make a game, you can't have one team be the only team when it comes to a franchise like Halo if you want consistent content. So I think we will see some more diverse games. Give me that third-person survival horror game with the Flood in the Halo universe. I think that is just a prime opportunity to really experiment with what we know Halo to be. And I will move on to some community Q&A real quick here to wrap up the show. If you are unaware, Xbox Chaturdays has a Discord now. There is a link in the description below if you would like to join. But we have some burning questions from our community folks. First up, we have Gold Shell. Here's a thought experiment about visuals versus frame rate. Are you an ultra/RTX/30 FPS gamer, or recommended no RTX and 60 FPS gamer? I have joked about this before, but I will play a game in 720p 60 FPS before I would play a game in 4K 30 FPS. So I will always lean towards 60 FPS. I know there's PC gamers in this chat or listening to this saying, both 4K, RTS on, 120 FPS. So this question, I think, is more geared towards the console heathens who don't have that raw power to do both. But me, 60 FPS or bust. I mean, I will play a game if it's not 60 FPS. But if there's an option, 100% of the time, I'm going with the 60 FPS option. Monkey versus Tramps. With the success of the Dead Space remake and Resident Evil 2 remake, is it only a matter of time until we get a Dino Crisis remake? I hope so. We got the brief tease with Exo Primal, and fans were like, "Oh snap, is this actually Dino Crisis?" And then no. Exoprimal looks fun. I'm stoked for it, but it's not Dino Crisis. I do want to see Dino Crisis come back because I feel like with the RE engine, oh, there's so much potential for that game to just look and shine beautifully. And who knows, maybe with Dragon's Dogma 2, they'll have some big giant monsters and creatures, and they can kind of share some of those assets and morph some of that stuff from Dragon's Dogma 2 and use that for Dino Crisis. But I don't know. I'm here for it. I would play it day one. Will it happen? I don't know. I know amongst, hardcore fans, there's an ask and there's a calling for Dino Crisis, but I don't think the average player in this day and age has any idea what Dino Crisis is. As much as that hurts me to say, I don't think the average person has any idea what Dino Crisis is. And Normski San asked, what was your personal golden age of gaming? Oh, man. This answer will probably vary from day to day. The ones that jump out at me at the most are Super Nintendo to PS1, and then OG Xbox. And just, again, this is just nostalgia's sake, but I remember just the every single generation. I remember that feeling of having the generation come out and just being absolutely blown away. I remember Super Nintendo playing Link to the Past for the first time and just being absolutely floored by this world and the art style and the color and the freedom that it offered. And then when the PlayStation 1 came out, and this is going to sound silly now, but I remember looking at those graphics and being like, oh my God, this is so realistic. These graphics are out of control. And then when the OG Xbox, and I first saw, game kiosks in stores that showed off stuff like Halo, and I was like, what on earth? I thought the PlayStation 1 looked incredible. This is unreal. And so I distinctly remember those moments of having that big generational gap and jump and having things progress so quickly that we could have those big transformative jumps. And now I think we're at a point of kind of diminishing returns for visual fidelity, so we don't get that as much. But we still do have those noticeable jumps. And when we see stuff like Hellblade 2, it kind of reminds me a little bit of those moments from my past where we get kind of introduced to something we had never seen before. All right, well, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Xbox Chaturdays. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Appreciate everyone hanging out. Appreciate everyone supporting the show. I hope you all have an amazing weekend, and we will catch you all next week. Take care.